that becomes not just a contributor to sustainability, but also an agent and a driver of future growth and diversification of our economies. So very excited to have the discussion start here, so that bioeconomic potato will not be confused anymore, and in West Africa, but also that we just look at, what do we have in place, how do we build on that, what should be the trajectory of that, and then hopefully march into a very solid bioeconomy in the region in the coming decade or so. So again, thank you for taking your time and being here to contribute to this discussion. Back to you, Lai. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bajan. Can we clap for him, please? We have two participants who just joined us. Welcome, Dr. Winter and Professor Khan. Do you want to take a minute to introduce yourselves? You can catch your breath afterwards.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for being late. Simon Winter. These days, I talked about a month ago, with the Rocket Club Foundation on a new reinventing humanitarian nutrition security initiative to tackle the moment we're in terms of declining public funding and needs to rationalize how we integrate humanitarian assistance and long-term food, nutrition, and agricultural development in the face of climate change. That's the sort of elevator pitch. Previously, the executive director of the Centre Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture.
Good afternoon. Apologies also for coming late. I was stuck in another meeting. My name is Ambassador Professor Mohamed Oka from the Gambia, the Gambian Ambassador to Switzerland and the Permanent Representative to the United Nations organizations in Geneva, WTO, and other international organizations. But more importantly, a member of the Malabo Montpellier panel and the board of the AATF, the Africa Agricultural Technology Foundation. In previous lives, I was a professor of information technology and computing, and interested in this topic, and I'm glad to be here. I was the Vice Chancellor of the University of the Gambia before. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you. So we have roughly 3 hours left to discuss pathways for a comprehensive bioeconomy agenda for West Africa, discuss successful approaches that have worked elsewhere, and of course, look at a way forward. So to help us set the context for this discussion, I am pleased to welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Julius Echuru.
Thank you so much, Lai. And first of all, before I deliver this keynote presentation, let me thank Professor Usman and the whole team at Academia 2063 for inviting me to this meeting, as well as Professor Von Brown and Frida and the whole team, University of Bonn, for inviting me to this meeting. I'm also glad Ben is here and will back me up as a member of the National Advisory Council on Global Bioeconomy. So I think Kaki mentioned that the momentum for bioeconomy is there, and for us it's really key that we maintain or sustain this momentum and squeeze every bit of good thing that comes with it. Catherine also mentioned that this momentum right now, you see it in East Africa and also in Southern Africa. But as the African proverb goes, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, you walk together. So I'm very grateful for Professor Von Brown and Professor Usman Badian for conceptualizing this idea that we should bring this momentum also to West Africa. So my talk today is really to talk about the opportunities for bioeconomy in West Africa, and I'm hoping that my talk will kind of catalyze some debate, and maybe at the end of it we agree on better consensus on the way forward. Now, I firmly believe that bioeconomy will enable Africa to achieve its vision for growth. And if you look at the African Union Agenda 2063, the first aspiration there of a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development really speaks to bioeconomy. If you look at these goals 1 to 7, and if you put your eye on bioeconomy lens, you can see that there's entry actually there. And if we take a bioeconomy lens, it will accelerate our achievement of these aspirations. So what is bioeconomy? I'm glad Dr. Badian, I think, put it in a very simple way. So up to now, there is no global consensus on the best definition for bioeconomy, right? Different countries, different regions have their own definitions. But at least the International Advisory Council on Global Bioeconomy has offered a definition which are put there: the production, use, conservation, and regeneration of biological resources to provide sustainable solutions, including information, products, processes, and services in and across all economic sectors. This definition has been adopted by FAO and also been published by several scholars. But I think, definitions aside, in my view, the best way to understand bioeconomy is to look at its features. And I'll try to list here the common ones, which you find in the literature today about bioeconomy. So it is biologically based, it is systemic, it means it involves a lot of actors, it is scientifically informed, and in the case of Africa, we also talk about indigenous knowledge or traditional knowledge. And then of course it is innovation driven. And when we talk about innovation, it's not just proving the concept in the lab or in the field, but also putting a product or service in the market. And then it's cross-sectoral. So bioeconomy is not one sector. It unites different economic sectors. And lastly, it is sustainable. And here, sustainability will include circularity. We also include economic sustainability, social sustainability, environmental sustainability. And of course, you can add to this list. But my take is that whatever it is, bioeconomy is best understood in the context of its application. So I think this helps us kind of to move forward with this general understanding. I wanted to give a little bit of, maybe not a history, but some kind of analysis which we published in ETO Augustine is here, ETO 2024. We kind of looked at how bioeconomy has or is evolving in Africa. So in the 1990s, I think during the Rio Summit, there was, of course, the Biodiversity Convention, and then we had a lot of debates about access to genetic resources and benefit sharing. And then, for those of you who know, then in 2010, there came the Nagoya Protocol, access, and then of course there was also the Biosafety Protocol, which came in later. But after that, we had a lot of work on biotechnology, or what was called modern biotechnology, but this was really to do with recombinant ribonucleic acid, or DNA, and also ribonucleic acid for RNA. So a lot of work, and countries like Uganda, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, I think Ghana as well, Burkina Faso, had a lot of trials on what we call genetically engineered organisms or products, and a lot of work went into developing capacity for genetic transformation. A lot of work went into developing capacity for biosafety, and we have had some successes, like in Ethiopia, where they have released a transgenic cotton. I think in Burkina Faso as well at some point. I'm told in Nigeria or Ghana, they have released soya, and so on and so forth. But a lot of transgenic crops have been tried and tested, and the results have proven to be okay at the moment. Of course, there are issues still with adoption. Then, when that happened, still the question was, all this is happening and the technologies are in the shelf. And of course, with the investment in biotechnology, we also came up with new tools for crop breeding, new tools for bioremediation, and my sister here from Nigeria is working a lot on that. So we came up with this broad idea of bioscience innovation. But then bioscience innovation was not enough. We needed to see actual transformation, linking these innovations of technologies to the market. And then around 2014, 2015, we now started talking about sustainable bioeconomy, and that's where we are. But if you look at those, I don't know where the arrows or boxes, you can see that I put them at the same line, and they're all relevant even in our discussion today. And we all move towards the SDGs 2030 and the Agenda 2063, which I talked to you about. Now, if you look at globally, and I'm glad Hans and also Ben here talked about national, regional bioeconomy strategies. So around the world, we have probably now more than 70 countries which have dedicated, we call them dedicated bioeconomy strategies. Some have biotechnology strategies or biosafety policies, but these are dedicated bioeconomy strategies. As you can see in this map, the US, China, Europe, and of course in this map you see, here this red line, and also here, we only have 2 regions in the whole world with regional bioeconomy strategies. So the first was the European Union, and the second is the East African Community, which published this strategy in 2022. Now, when it comes to Africa, we have momentum, and again, as Catherine said, this momentum you see very much in East Africa and Southern Africa. South Africa, Ben is here with us, fortunately, was the first to publish its dedicated national bioeconomy strategy in 2013, and Ben will tell us in the process of reviewing that. And then Namibia, last year published its strategy, and also Ethiopia, after attending the Global Bioeconomy Summit in Nairobi. Last year they got very inspired, and then established their own bioeconomy strategy. But here is where I'm very interested in that for the East African Community, which is one of the regional economic blocks of the AU, established this dedicated bioeconomy strategy in 2022. And maybe let me pause here and talk about the inspiration of this. We do this inspiration partly from the Global Bioeconomy Summit of We had the idea, but we were really struggling in East Africa how to implement this. And the GPS, which was led by Professor Von Braun in 2018, made very specific recommendations. And many African nations were there that countries and regions should establish bioeconomy strategies. And for us, this gave us some kind of legitimacy. We could now convince our stakeholders that this is a global effort. It's not only hearsay that we are talking about. But I think the vision we have is to have an African bioeconomy strategy. And this meeting, I hope, can be part of this effort in having this. If we have ECOWAS, we have SADC, we have ESC, and others, different strategies, then I think we can talk about an African bioeconomy strategy. Now, if you look at this, so far the strategies that I've mentioned, in terms of the activities, a lot of them on the other side, a lot of them focus on increasing primary production. It could be of crops or materials. Then they also talk a lot about value addition to biomass from agricultural produce and also other biomaterials. And then bio-waste conversion on municipal or agro-industrial waste is a key thing, a running activity or output they want to see. And then of course biodiversity. And when we talk about biodiversity, we are talking about ecosystem services. The role of pollinators, for example, is a good one. Other bioconverters of waste. Now, again, the outcomes are very clear. Food security, health, economic diversification, I think for me is one of the strongest rationale for what people want to see. And then rural development. And for Africa, specifically, the question of jobs and incomes, I think is key for the bioeconomy. And of course, we all want the societal impacts here, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, economic growth, better quality of life, and our biodiversity concern. Now, in East Africa, the program that I lead is called Bioinnovate Africa. We foster bioeconomy in East Africa, and our model is very simple. We work, scientists, we focus on this early stage, ideas from the labs, we partner with existing companies, or we create new companies, and we follow what we call an innovation process, and of course, we aim to have at the end of the day, societal impacts, as I have mentioned to you. So West Africa, in my view, has a competitive edge in developing bioeconomy, just like East Africa, and also just like Southern Africa. So I just speak to this. This is data 2024 from World Bank statistics, and you can see what we call the productive sectors. These productive sectors is where public and private financing goes. So if you look at here, agriculture, just speak to a few countries in the region, you can see agriculture still contributes significantly to GDP. I think Senegal is doing pretty well there, if you look at Senegal statistics. But the whole point, if you look at manufacturing here, is not badly actually. If you compare to East Africa, East Africa manufacturing is one digit, below 10. But for West Africa, I was really pleasantly surprised that it is double digit, which is good. So my point here is that we need to, you may agree or disagree, but we need to reduce this, okay, and increase this manufacturing. And this is where bioeconomy comes in. And so this is where the potential also is. So I say here, sustainable value addition and building climate resilient supply chains will actually boost the share of manufacturing. And this is where practical bioeconomy comes in. But we can debate this as well. Now, some of the opportunities, again, to continue, I see the continent is very rich in biomass. We talk about forests, crops, livestock, arthropods or insects, aquatic resources like fisheries, and the untapped world of the microbes. This is there. And then you see knowledge. I think knowledge we do have. Of course, we still need to develop more. But scientific or indigenous knowledge can actually drive innovation in these sectors. If you look at herbal medicine, organic farming, natural dyes, and sustainable forestry, all of these are key. I just picked this example of Covidex in Uganda. During COVID-19, this was a herbal extract that was used to relieve symptoms of COVID-19. And up to now, it's one of the, kind of best products you can actually cite. And it has very potent antiviral effects. But also in terms of tools, we actually have tools, different ways of aerobic or anaerobic digestion, composting, pyrolysis, fermentation, extraction, genomics, limit. These tools are there. We just need to perfect them and to use them in different settings. Now, in terms of the economic part of it, I think if we monetize, I like what my sister from Nigeria here said. You're running a fermentation program, but I think if we monetize those interventions, they would be very critical in making the business case for public and private investment. And these days we are talking about blended financing. So I just took this example from my program by Innovate, where we do invest. And these are a list of companies in the different products. So after 1 year after we had stopped funding, and you can see that just 1 year after we stopped funding, a company like in bioconversion, where we are treating biological wastewater, they had doubled their income revenue. You see where we are talking about nitrogen enhanced biofertilizers, they had also doubled their revenue. You can see here in the area of orange fresh sweet potato purees as an ingredient in different foods. You can see, they are more than tripled. Their isolate and so forth, vermicompost, honey, and so insect protein here was also, at least you can see that there was some revenue increment. So the point here is, if we make deliberate effort to assist these ideas and these young companies, I think there's potential for growth. Another opportunity here, I just wanted to mention that this, what we did here was also supported by the work of Malabo Mokwege panel on nature solutions, and they looked at different value chains, and actually they do confirm the point that I'm trying to make here. So the other opportunity I see is for trade, both intra-Africa and other regions. I think they estimate trade within inter-Africa trade is very low, probably less than 10% in some cases. But we do have this African continental free trade area. So, but this cannot be actualized if we don't have value-added products or services. I cannot export bananas from Uganda to Cameroon in raw form, okay? But I could probably trade in starch. So those kind of things. And then for the private sector, I think there is really scope for both large agro-industrial players and also small and medium enterprises, especially those in wastewater energy businesses, ecological packaging, and rural bio enterprises. Ben here is very passionate about biorefineries. I think there's really room for there. In our program, we just built the largest essential oils biorefinery in Burundi. It's the largest in East Africa. So there's a lot of potential for that. And then, of course, for government, for me, the best for government is that you have a diversified sources of growth, and this is important. And of course, it also helps our countries to meet the climate and biodiversity targets. So what is required? I think at the national level, we need to increase investments in R&D, but also importantly, we need to create enabling environments for innovation and business. And this, of course, if we take a systems approach, it also includes infrastructure, the regulatory frameworks, access to finance and skills. And then I think for ECOWAS, ECOWAS could coordinate strategic regional vision, policy harmonization, and shared infrastructure, like the East African community did. And some countries can emerge as champions. We are here in Senegal. Why can't Senegal become a champion? I saw from my statistics, actually Senegal is doing well. The share of manufacturing is high, and I think there's room for. So some countries can emerge, Senegal, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Ghana can emerge as champions. But the question for us is, these things do not just happen. Somebody has to catalyze it. And I'm asking myself whether it is time to have a Bioinnovate Africa in West Africa, for instance. So a regional initiative like this could provide the technical support, catalyze cross-border collaboration, innovation, and so on and so forth. So these things don't just happen. You need institutions like this, people who facilitate the whole process and catalyze action. So we have some entry points as I come to the close. We talked about the Global Bioeconomy Summit. We held the first one, so these days in my CV, I also put lead organizer of the Global Bioeconomy Summit 2024 in Nairobi, Kenya, and of course I do that here as well. But it was great. We had 500 in-person people from 57 countries all over the world, 66 nationalities, and very, very diverse. But there is an opportunity coming. GBS 2026 will be in Dublin, Ireland, in October. So thank you, Ben, for asking for the list. We shall tell you the actual dates, which will be announced in the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, we do have the regional bioeconomy workshops. I'm glad AATF has done some studies. I'm really keen to know what you found. But I'm asking myself in this workshop today, this is really high-powered. Can we come up with some, I don't know what you would call it, declaration or policy brief or something, that will, catalyze this discussion, move the momentum forward, and so on and so forth. Then we have Ben with G20, who will tell us a little bit more, and then of course other upcoming events like Academia 2063, icipe, and partners. And Catherine mentioned, we just published the Kampala CADAP Declaration, which is a timely opportunity. We looked through this declaration and then saw that there are some bioeconomy connections. Usman, we thank you. I remember in Rabat, you really did your best to try to push this in the, to help enlighten our colleagues at the AU. The word bioeconomy doesn't appear, but elements of it appear, and that's what we point out in this Kampala Declaration. So this is it. I'm not going to go into the detail. We mapped each commitment against the bioeconomy connection. And here we say that taking the bioeconomy approach will accelerate the implementation of CADAP. And then the bioeconomy connection also lays the foundation. It lays the foundation for us to now start discussing the regional bioeconomy strategy for ECOWAS, for SADC, for other parts of the continent and also for our own countries. So, in conclusion, I think bioeconomy is rapidly developing as a growth pathway for the future. Now, for me, I say always that countries and regions that harness this potential right now will have an early lead in their socio-economic transformation efforts. Some people say the early blood catches the worm, right? And again, regional collaborations and global partnerships for bioeconomic development can help us leapfrog into this future. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Julius. So now we are moving on to our next segment. We are moving on to input talks. We have 4 speakers who will have 5 minutes each. Yes, we're going to set the timer this time around. 5 minutes each to talk about different thematic areas. So the first area will be outcomes and recommendations from GPS 2024, GFFA 2025, and G20 Bioeconomy Initiative. Over to you, Ben.
Shall I go up there?
Either way, you can take the lectern or you can sit in your seat, whichever works better for you.
Yes, it is working. You can hear me. Good afternoon again, and thanks very much, Rizwan, and to the organisers for including me. It's really great to see people of different interests and capabilities all participating in today with a worthwhile purpose. I've been given 5 minutes. I have 5 points to make, and it's impossible. So bear with me. I've been asked to talk about the Global Bioeconomy Summit, the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture, and the G20 initiative on bioeconomy. Let me start with the G20. This is a group of countries and 2 regions, the AU and the EU, 19 countries plus the AU and the EU, that collectively hold 85% of the global GDP, 75% of international trade, 67% of the world's population. Just this group of 20 countries. So they're a powerful and influential group, and every year the presidency of the G20 changes. South Africa holds the presidency this year. Brazil held it last year. Brazil started the G20 initiative on bioeconomy. Congratulations to Brazil. What they managed to achieve during the course of their year was to define and reach agreement on 10 high-level principles. To summarize them, they refer to sustainable and inclusive development, climate action, biodiversity conservation, sustainable resource use, responsible innovation, and robust policy formulation and international cooperation. That's a summary of those 10 high-level principles. The second point that I want to touch on then is the Global Forum for Food and Agriculture, which is held in Berlin every year. It's a forum where at this last one, 60 ministers of agriculture from around the world come together and try and reach agreement on a way forward. They produce a communique, as many of these conferences do. Their primary focus is on food security and sustainable agriculture. They strongly support, nevertheless, the development of bioeconomy approaches. They are realizing that agriculture and food security is critical, but there's more to it. You need to look at the full value chain beyond just food, agriculture to food. They emphasize the importance of science, technology, and innovation communication, financing, traditional knowledge applications, and the importance of standing together, the world standing together about important issues. That's the second point. The third point is the Global Bioeconomy Summit, which Julius mentioned. We've got a former co-chair of the International Advisory Council, Joachim von Braun, and a current chair here, Julius Akuru, current co-chair. The Global Bioeconomy Summit is a global one. It was first held in Germany and held there for a couple of years to get the momentum and develop it. The first time that it moved outside of Germany, it came to Africa. So a phenomenal development, and Julius was instrumental in that, in hosting it in Nairobi, Kenya last year. Some of the key points that came out of this is that we need to integrate bioeconomy strategy into economic policy. In other words, governments need to think more along bioeconomic principles rather than just economic principles. Bioeconomic principles being the more sustainable version. They also emphasized the creation of global bioeconomy partnerships, standards for market access, support regional and local while connecting to the global level, and integrating bioeconomy principles into education so that it's not just the select few that know about it, but it becomes increasingly so the entire population of the world that becomes aware of the importance of the bioeconomy. As Julius mentioned, it's being held in Ireland next year in October, and it would be great if Africa has a stronger voice at that convention, at that summit. The next issue I'm talking to, I hope I'm in time, I'm not following closely.
Injury time.
Sorry?
Injury time.
Injury time. The fourth issue is the G20 initiative on bioeconomy this year under South Africa's presidency. We wanted to move from Brazil's vision into implementation. We can't talk about a vision forever. A vision is critically important. Without a vision, you can't move forward. But we now have the vision, we need to move forward. We recognize bioeconomy as an opportunity. It's not just a way of addressing environmental concerns. It's an oven out there, outside of this room, and it's going to get warmer with climate change. But we're not doing this only because of climate change. We're doing this because there is an economic opportunity. Currently, the global bioeconomy is estimated at $4 trillion US. It's expected to grow to $30 trillion US by 2050. The first priority in our issue notes is there should be an African focus. South Africa and the AU are the only members of the G20, so we wanted to provide a focus on Africa. We identified that these shortages, and it follows on with Julius, we need further skills, we need further science infrastructure, we need policy to be refined and developed, and we need finance. Finance is a major challenge. In Africa, we don't have the subsidies that are prevalent in the developed world. We also learned that Africa derives less than 10% of the final value of its biomass. In other words, Africa is exporting raw material and the value chain is being completed outside of Africa. So less than 10% of the final value is recognized in Africa. This again talks to the huge opportunity that we have. We just need to apply a bit more technology, a bit more skills, and invest a little bit more, and we could be deriving huge benefit from our biomass. The second priority was metrics and standards. If we want to develop the bioeconomy, we have to encourage and enable trade. Trade is critical as a way of providing a market for bioeconomy goods. So trade is critical. We've got the FAO to develop a dashboard and capabilities on trade metrics. And in addition, these metrics can be used, they're accessible to everyone, they can be used to measure individual countries or regions' development of bioeconomies. So there are ways to measure both territorial bioeconomies, but also the value chain. The third priority was finance. I mentioned that. Very briefly, we are establishing a bioeconomy financing hub for Africa. It will be launched in early 2026. It's being supported by the FSD Africa, the African Natural Capital Alliance, Nature Finance, and it already has received a bit of Green Climate Fund funding. So it's an established fund that will be supporting bioeconomy projects across Africa. The last priority in our issue note was a coordinating platform. There is so much happening around the world related to the bioeconomy, and we are not optimally benefiting from the information that is out there, the activities that are out there. And so what we are suggesting at the final meeting of this year's G20 Initiative on Bioeconomy meeting in 2 weeks' time is that there needs to be a coordinating structure that can pull things together, that can do analysis of the global situation and set recommendations and targets for the world. Every country is different and we'll have to treat those targets differently, but we need a global leadership structure that can both lead and coordinate and make sure that the bioeconomy that is developed is benefiting everyone. So that's where we are at the moment. The bioeconomy is a growing trend internationally. The momentum has been mentioned by Julius and Katrin. We need to make sure that we are in the position to take advantage of this opportunity. There is huge international goodwill, and we must recognize that this is not a new form of colonialism. This is about us taking a step forward as responsible citizens of the planet. There is this huge opportunity, but it's not just a way of increasing funding to become available. It's because we are responsible citizens of the world. Thank you. Sorry for running over time.
Thank you, Ben. We'll be hearing more from you during the discussion. And now to share some remarks on embedding agri-food systems in the bioeconomy, please welcome Professor Bonnie Brown.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. The bioeconomy as a centerpiece in West Africa and other regions, the agri-food system. We are talking about no more agriculture, but the agri-food system that is helpful for integrating bioeconomy thinking. Thank you, Ben and Julius, for your presentations. Currently, around the world, countries write themselves food system strategies, the so-called national pathways. I suggest that those of you from the diverse West African countries push yourself to the table of those who are writing in your country these food system transformation pathway documents. These are meaningful processes. That's one connection. My second point is we need to connect the bioeconomy to the construction sector. The biomass resources out of the food system and agroforestry systems and forestry offer material for the construction sector to reduce concrete and steel and to sequester and thereby contribute to climate resilience The bioeconomy strategy includes that to the construction sector. After all, the construction sector adds about 35% of greenhouse gas emissions, more than the food sector. Third, we need, from the bioeconomy, to look at the energy sector. Primary energy in many African countries still covers more than 50% bio-based materials, so wood, charcoal, etc. The transformation of the energy sector with renewable energies will free up biomass, and that gives us a lot of new material opportunities. We need to therefore, as bioeconomists, look over to the energy sector and look for synergy between bioeconomy and the transformation of the energy sector, for bioeconomy's sake and for climate's sake. And lastly, we should look over to the chemical industry. The opportunities of microbiological innovations in bio-based chemistry and pharmaceutical industries, etc. I was happy to hear already hints at that from our colleagues from Nigeria. That is an opportunity. So my fundamental point is bioeconomy needs to be built in cooperation and in synergy, in sync with other key economic sectors, and West Africa has these opportunities. Hans-Jörg, I'm having one suggestion to you. There's a new satellite cycling around the world. It has the name Biomass. It is from ESA, European Space Agency. It can count every tree around the world, especially also in Africa, through the leaves and to the roots. This gives us, and the primary data from it will be available publicly early next year. This is a huge opportunity to carefully check the supply side of biomass, and it gives clarification where is the opportunity for utilizing more biomass, where we should be more cautious, and how to facilitate growth of biomass, for instance, through agroforestry potentials and so on, things which you, Shaikh, and us have worked together. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Von Braun. And now, to share some inputs on bioeconomy opportunities in Senegal, please welcome Professor Sheikh Bao.
Thank you, Lai. First of all, I would like to commend and congratulate Dr. Bichiro for the insightful keynote. Just one single advice is to explore deeper what the AMCEN is doing with the 12 green steel mills, which I see as a good conduit, policy conduit to mainstream the good ideas you share to the decision makers, but also explore how the new framework on Paris Agreement, the NDCs, would use some of those bioeconomic tools as a way to respond to the Paris Agreement, which is something we are experimenting in Senegal, and I'll tell you more as I talk about a few reflections on the issue. Before I go to what Senegal is doing, I would like to highlight what my colleagues were saying about the potential that Africa has in all sense. There is no single natural resources which you flag in the world without Africa being almost the first runner in the potentials that we have. Joachim mentioned a few of them, but there are a bounty of this kind of opportunities in Africa, including fertile soils and like. The point here is how do we combine the different potentials, the natural resource potentials, the innovation or technology potentials, and the market potentials. And to understand those potentials, I think the framing we are putting together today is a starting point, is to understand all the various nitty-gritty of the potentials of natural resources, but the innovations that match with those potentials and what the market opportunities are. And I think strategically we need to deep dive into those connections, resources, innovation, and market to start the initiatives. And we're not doing enough certainly around that. Ben, you would agree that even though Africa has done various kind of initiatives, there is a big gap in covering the whole continent with all the potentials that we're mentioning here. Senegal does not have, unfortunately not yet, a single dedicated bioeconomy strategy, but we certainly integrate bioeconomy principles in many of the policies, and I would like, under the control of Jibril and my fellow Senegalese colleagues, to mention a few areas where we think bioeconomy is a vivid tool to accelerate our transitions towards sustainability. The first one is about energy transition. Like Kenya, like different countries, we are moving from an energy mix from 30% to 40% target, more than 40 actually. And it's underestimated for the horizon 2050. It's underestimated because all individual single initiatives on roofing their house with solar panel is not accounted. It's only the structural responses that the government gives into accelerating solar energy into the process, wind energy into this process, which is accounted for. I have advised the government to task CSC with the tools, with the new technology, drones, etc. It's easy to spot different solar panels. In my own house, during the whole day, I don't use any conventional electricity. And the price has been going down so much. I'm sure Ben in your house, some solar energy are frying the pumping, etc. But those things which are individual initiatives are not taken into account. And it will have boosted, accelerated the figures of how renewables are being applied to that. So energy transition is a big stake when it comes to those things. The second one is agroecology. Jibril is well in position to mention that. Even if we are not doing it without conventional agriculture, the agribusiness discussion which is happening right now in the other side of the city, the population themselves, because they are African and they have reminiscence of what their parents has been doing successfully into maintaining trees into the farm and doing some practices of, improve livelihood through trees, through biomass recycling. This agroecology practice has been developed in the background of what we target as a green revolution in this very case. So how does local knowledge in an agroecology is responding to the bioeconomy? Because at the end of the day, it creates some healthy productions that not only support the nutrition of communities, but also fill the market with fresh product that the people will eat at a very affordable price. You go to Parakou or Benin, Karafi areas, you will eat fresh and you will eat ecologically sound product which has been produced by local farmers. The small farmers are doing a great deal of that. How do we support those pathways which are local pathways, not formal, not normative, and which are actually transformative and responding to the goals and the vision, as you mentioned, Ben, in the very beginning. The third point, or third prong, is the green industry. Certainly, there's a lot of pollution and other, misbehavior in the industrial sector. But the fact of compliance, requirement with different donors or the banks now, which are driving the process of investment, the quality, safety, and environment requirement, which is bringing the industry now to go towards more green production, not bio-production, which is important to highlight. Circular economy, certainly, my friend mentioned it. But in Senegal, you have seen it. If you're going to Diamniadio, you have taken the speed train. It's fully electric. You have seen those buses which are green, yellow, and red, which is called the BRT. The first time I saw BRT was in South Africa, but our BRT is not from fossil fuel. Our BRT is from electricity and partially from solar electricity. So the green transformation is extremely important, and we're doing it already in our country. The eco-constructions, I can't say more than Joachim on that very line, but there's also bringing back the traditional knowledge, what we call food Nubian, which is very known, using clay. Clay does not mean poor housing. Clay does not mean poor quality of your housing. And in CSC, if you come right now, the roof, the second level which I built The bricks has been made from clay and some combinations. It gives you a microclimate, it's resistant, and it's very adequate for the tropical ecosystem. So in other words, when we do these kind of things, I want us, it's an invitation, to think about what community are already doing on that very sense that we can support and mobilize all the green financing process that comes with it. To conclude, the opportunities are great on bioeconomy, but we need additional clarity on the value chain of those bioeconomy. If you take any of those sectors, it's not because you mention it that the whole value chain is bioeconomically sound. You have to detangle the different segment of the value chain and see how bioeconomy applies around the value chain actors. This is what I could bring us inside, and in the discussions I'll bring more in-depth reflections of what CSC think bioeconomy should be doing to move the continent forward. Over.
Thank you, Prof. Bo. And now we will hear from Dr. Hans Jörg with some perspectives from the European Commission. We know you shared some slides. Would you like to use your slides, or we have them anyway, so over to you.
Thank you very much. I know it's a big challenge because I didn't know what my slot will be in this event, and therefore I sent my standard set of slides. What I will do, I will distill from the slides 3 to 4 messages, but therefore rush you through the slides. And if documents are shared after the workshop, you have them in full length, including some hyperlinks which might interest you. Okay, how can I move them? What was mentioned by Jürgen von Braun and also by our Senegalese colleague is to link up to other sectors in the bioeconomy, and I think this is really a crucial step forward. I would like to add that it's also useful in the bioeconomy actually to use existing partnerships. So between the EU and the AU, we have a high-level policy dialogue which identified food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture as a first priority, and clean and sustainable energy and climate change as second. And so using actually this high-level policy dialogue and its first priority, food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture, would give a framing to bioeconomy efforts. So the existing roadmap 2016-26 in principle covers the bioeconomy, a bit like CADAP. It looks at sustainable intensification, food systems for nutrition and trade. And the benefit of such an existing framework means it can generate a lot of collaborative research projects, like this 10-year roadmap around, I think 300 research projects, and linking different funding sources to it, like Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe, and others. And then I would like to mention that this roadmap is due for an update now. So looking at the period 26 to 37, and again an opportunity actually to bring in the current state of priority discussions, including the bioeconomy. And then an important message within this EU-AU partnership, we are discussing with our African partners to create an international research consortium it is actually already created. It was launched in September 2 years ago. I think 60 organizations have signed up to it, and around 25 have a contractual relationship, are supporting it. And within this IRC, there is a possibility to create working groups. So working groups on food safety, working groups on many scientific areas which beyond individual projects need a more permanent structure. And why not a bioeconomy working group within the IRC? These are just two examples of bioeconomy projects funded within this partnership. Without going into detail, maybe some of you have even been partners of the two projects. Then I will skip the next slides and show you in a few slides where we are in Europe in discussing the next version of the bioeconomy. I don't need to repeat the dimensions and objectives because I think they are shared between the continents. Also, I mean, what we mean by bioeconomy, as Julio said, it's in the practice where we discover the bioeconomy and its beauties. But it's now the third version of the bioeconomy strategy in Europe, which is close to be published. So we expect endorsement by December 2025. And maybe some of you might have participated in the public consultation. The summary is available under this hyperlink if you are checking it. And I think this was mentioned by Julius and Ben, that we continue to engage from the European side with you in Africa on the fora like G20 and also the Global Bioeconomy Summit, where we are about to prepare the one in Ireland in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And we'll be sure to share those resources with participants. So all the materials will be shared. So there's going to be a slight change of plans. We will take a coffee break now for 10 to 15 minutes. That will allow us to return to the room and focus on the moderated panel and discussions until the end. So let's take 10 to 15 minutes. I'll be outside with the bell when it's time to return to the room. See you in a bit. Grab a coffee and we'll talk later. See you.
we've just got Celia, this calculator.
Sorry, what is that? So, Tom and you know Tom?
That's the
Yes, exactly. He's the people. Are you asking about the transition to the workings? No, sorry.
They are No. kii mu nekk mode portrait mu ko ñu réglé ko parce que dama demoon directement YouTube paramètre paysage ak heure bi 14 heures jëm quoi à léegi heure bi passé loolu moom njëkk a indi problème après comme que affaire bi doon commencé waa YouTube bi mais dama commencé laal su ma demee dina gis téléphone yi léegi
I couldn't barely breathe.
All right. I hope you enjoyed your coffee break. We are about to move to the next part of our program for the moderated panel discussion. Welcome to our colleagues who joined us this afternoon from Canada. Thanks for joining us. So we are moving on to the moderated panel discussion. And so during the remarks, during the opening remarks, the introductions, as well as the keynote, there's a particular report that kept coming up, the 2024 Research Annual Trends and Outlook Report, the ECOWAS, which we launched last year in Rabat, Morocco, in October. And the topic of that report is advancing the climate and bioeconomy agenda in Africa for resilient and sustainable agri-food systems. And during the 3-day event, we launched that report, and there were a lot of conversations around the bioeconomy, opportunities for bioeconomy, converging with agendas and all of that. And a recurring theme that emerged from that conference was that this is quite a fertile area for research, for science, and also for policy. And because of the number of people we have in this room, I'm looking forward to a very rich discussion. So before I invite, or before we delve fully into the panel, I would like to touch on a few points that were made by a few speakers from the earlier sessions. Dr. Echuru, you actually were one of the contributors to the ECOWAS that delved into the bioeconomy agenda for Africa, and you are very much involved in global bioeconomy initiatives. So let's talk about building on your keynote. Let's talk about an investment case for bioeconomy in Africa. Can you tell us very briefly what makes bioeconomy a compelling investment opportunity for the continent? In light of biodiversity, the youth population, we just ended the African Food Systems Forum, which is focused on youth. The growing demand for sustainable products. And I also heard Ben say several times during his input talks that it's not just about climate change, it's about exploring an economic opportunity. So what would you highlight if you were to sit in a room with policymakers? How would you sell the fact that it is indeed an investment opportunity for the continent?
Thank you so much, Lai, and I was very happy to be part of the Act of 2024 and contributing the bioeconomy part. But I think with respect to a compelling case, first with biodiversity, Africa has the largest biomass compared to any other continent. And not just biomass, but actually the diversity of that biological resource. So that is an asset that we have. And if you look around the continent, more than maybe 65% of our populations are directly deriving livelihoods from this biodiversity, whether it's for food, for fuel, for medicine, and other uses, construction, and so on. So that's the opportunity for bioeconomy. The way it is being done now is unsustainable. I think bioeconomy would bring that aspect of sustainability, innovation, inclusivity. So that's number one. And number two is the youthful population. So we do have, I think it's 70% of our population is youth. Now that to me is an advantage because you have the dynamic labor market. If these youth are skilled with the relevant knowledge and techniques and so on, if we skill them well, they could be a great asset. And this skilling also involves like introducing a lot of entrepreneurship businesses to it. And the key to that, if you tie the youth and the biodiversity, then we are looking at economic diversification for me, which is key. And then lastly, you mentioned something. What was the last thing? Sorry, I missed that. Was that the...
Yes, the economic opportunity.
Economic
How would you sell this to policymakers?
Yeah. So for me, that's what I would say. I say, we have a youthful population, we have the biodiversity. We just need, trigger the science, the technology in there, link that to markets in a sustainable way, and we diversify our economies and grow sustainably.
Thank you, Julius. I'll come back to you later. But now I'd like to talk to Ben. We understand that there is an opportunity, but it's important to be in alignment with existing frameworks, with broader frameworks. So I would like you to speak to how South Africa is working to position, bioeconomy at the key level for inclusive and sustainable development, not only within the G20, but also in alignment with broader continental agendas. We have Agenda 2063, we have the CADA, and of course we have the AFCFTA.
Thank you so much for the question. I'm not sure if I can answer it comprehensively, but we have to recognize that Africa, and to quite some extent the developing world, sees the bioeconomy through different lenses from the global north, the developed world. Africa didn't contribute significantly to the climate change, fossil fuel burn-offs, etc., etc. And we are seeing the bioeconomy as the chance to develop and adopt and take advantage of technologies based on our biomass that Julius mentioned, to create jobs and livelihoods and improve the economic turnover across Africa. And in South Africa, but this is reflected across the whole of Africa. One of the strengths that we have that is yet largely untapped is the indigenous knowledge. We have this incredible wealth. We the continent where humanity comes from, and we've got thousands, up to 200,000 years of human development on the continent, and we've got this wealth of indigenous knowledge. And what we are saying is we need to find a way of valorizing that indigenous knowledge to create an opportunity for those communities that are have developed and are operating kind of independent of the normal economic world that many of us know. It's operating in a second economy kind of thing. And this is giving them a real opportunity to develop. And it's just crucial that we do make sure that the policies and practices that we put in place to harness this indigenous knowledge are not exploitative. They are helping the communities and the knowledge holders become the leaders of that knowledge valorization process. So we want to harness this indigenous knowledge, but we want to do it in a manner that allows them to be the primary beneficiaries of this and support them with science, with investment, with capabilities in order to develop their products for the mainstream markets while not losing their interests and their capabilities and their cultures.
Thank you so much, Ben. I'll come back to you soon. And now to Professor Shekbal from the Centre de Suivi Ecologique. I'm seeing 3 questions here, but there are 2 that I believe we can tackle at the same time. So part A of the question, as the host country of this regional workshop, how is Senegal positioning itself as a leader in shaping West Africa's bioeconomy future? And how can this workshop serve as a springboard for the country to facilitate durable collaborations across government, academia, civil society, and the private sector?
Thank you, Rai. I'll just elaborate on my colleagues, the brand statement from my colleagues and what I said earlier. The perspective I want to bring in this question is how this new bioeconomy framework will harness from solutions for growing prosperity for Africa. When you talk about policies in Africa, first and foremost is how we increase wealth for people. But the way we do it sustainably and the different options that we have is something we are discussing here. So the entry point is the growing prosperity from natural resources. And to do that, for me, one good option is to bring back the forgotten practices that the community has been doing. We cannot just, import solutions. We cannot just, reinvent things which are in practice already known. We give it a different name, but in terms of practice, it's already there in many ways. So as Africa, we should bring this bottom-up approach, which is this not transactional already always, but something that reflects what community aspirations are. And there are 3 key points which I want to share with you. The first one is how this green economy will complement the other flow of investment, the traditional one. We know it, the foreign direct investment, the remittances, the government investment, and the development aid. But how green economy can be a new layer, an additional possibility to increase the flow of money in our countries. And the argument that sustains this new way of mobilizing resources for development is it's a no regret economic rebooting, because it has a lot of spin-off in terms of sustainability, maintaining the natural capital, etc. The second key point is I've been working with UNCCD, for those who know about a new narrative for Africa. When we talk about the Sahel, people think it's very dry. Sahel is one of the ecosystems with a lot, most water resources you can imagine. With the deep water we have in Ilumden, in the Senegalese Mauritanian basin, in Telemit, and all those boundary of the Sahel where the Great Greek Wall is. If you go 1,000 meters, you have fossil water of billions of cubic water of water which can be supporting some bioeconomy process. And if you combine that with the 3,000, 2,000 to 3,000 watt per square meter of solar energy, there is the ingredients where we can unlock a big potential. And the new narrative cannot be built without using the new economic concept, which is bioeconomy, to recreate the image of Africa with the potential, which is not only a vision, but something which is realistic. We cannot keep doing vision, as you said earlier. The third key point is that we are very much affected by climate change. The drought in South Africa, the drought in the Horn of Africa, the flooding, we come in the middle of the flooding in all our rivers. And those things are undoing some of this potential of bioeconomy because we don't understand it very well. So the point here is how to develop strategic tools to create a new financial flow to address those, climate extremes into our countries. So to finish, I think the way forward in terms of structural response is how do we improve the greening of the local corporate service that we have. It's extremely important. I've talked to several banks here. They're all greening their ways of bringing money to the communities, big loans, green loans that address the bioeconomy stakes. But we need to emphasize that more. The traditional way of capital mobilization with interest rate which are very high will be a disservice for the bioeconomic, and that's something which is possible. The second thing which is possible is to address the structural barriers such as the limited application of technology. We import technology, but we can create local technologies that really respond to those challenges that we just mentioned. I'll stop it there because I think if we structure our thinking about what the aspirations are, what we can do about it, what are the barriers and what are the potential that we can, apply on those barriers, we would certainly do a deep, rapid transformation for social improvement in our communities. And I'll stop it there. I thank you for the time.
Thank you, Prof. Aspirations, priorities, potential. Well noted. So let's talk about Ghana. Dr. Omari, welcome to the stage. So Ghana has a strong track record in green growth and sustainability. How, from your perspective, how is the concept of bioeconomy being integrated into national development, innovation, and research agendas in the country?
Thank you very much. So for us, the concept of bioeconomy is not being used. I've not heard it used in Ghana, but it comes in different forms, looking at the presentations we have heard so far. And as you rightly said, we have very good policies. We can talk about the National Climate Smart Agriculture Policy. We have the National Environment Policy, which addresses some of these environmental issues. We have Climate Change Policy, National Biodiversity Strategy, it's also available. We have Renewable Energy Master Plan, and then we have a Renewable Energy Act that will, ensure that we have maximum enforcement of some of the issues in the policy. But from I think 2015, 2016, my institute was part of a project, Green Economy Project. And under that project, which was sponsored by the German government, we did in collaboration with the United Nations Energy Program, Environment Program, we did a baseline study to see the extent to which green economy, initiatives are being implemented in the country, and how they are being even integrated into our development plans. And we realized that at the national level, yes, we have some of these initiatives already in the plans, but at the district level, not. So what we did in that project is to work with 3 districts. We did a lot of capacity building, trained them to be able to also identify some key green economy or initiative that we want to advance. And one of them was climate change, climate smart agriculture, waste to energy technologies, and there was another one that was to look at market opportunities for green economy initiatives. So what we did was that we were able to get these 3 districts to mainstream green economy initiatives in their plans. And as a result, we developed a strategy or a guideline for other districts who may want to integrate this initiative to also be. So there is a guideline available that any district that wants to integrate it in their plans will have the guidelines available. Then, so having all these things, this background, we had a privilege or the opportunity to lead the development of our national STI policy, that is Science, Technology and Innovation Policy. And so 2 of the objectives focus on green economy, that is a sustainable environmental management practices that promote biodiversity restoration and conservation. And if you look at all the things if you look at the strategies to achieve these objectives, most of them are linked to green bioeconomy. And then the other one is that we are open to adoption and application of frontier technologies. Any being it bioeconomy, IT, any new technology, we are ready as a country to exploit and then apply those technologies in whatever we do. Because we have all these policies in place, as an organization, CSIR, as I say, we have 13 institutes, 60 research centers, and we are all doing science. It is scientific research we conduct. So we have also redefined our thematic focus. One of the focus is climate change, environmental conservation, and green technologies, which captures all the green economy technologies that we have talked about. And the second one is on energy and petroleum. And the energy, even the petroleum, is talking about using carbon capture technologies to reduce, the effect of these fossil fuels and all that. And then we have waste to energy technology to produce energy and all that. So this is now a key focus for CSIR research. So I think this is what I can talk about in relation to that.
Thank you so much, Doctor. And I'll stay with you again for follow-up.
Yeah.
How is the country leveraging partnerships between research institutions such as yours and the private sector? Because we've said before that it's an economic opportunity. So how can these partnerships help develop bio-based products, for instance, industries and markets?
Yeah. So I'll talk about some few examples because there's a lot. Thank you. There's a lot happening already. I will first talk about biogas technology, which way back in 1990, that was the first time I was then a student. I just completed my O-level and we had an excursion to the CSIR Industrial Research Institute. And we were introduced to this technology. They were producing biogas, from all kinds of waste, and being used to produce a gas for cooking. And we were so excited. And this thing, the promotion of this has been so slow, but now they have trained a lot of artisans who are able to now construct, biogas, plants and all that in homes, in institutions, in schools and all that. So it has become very popular in the country. And it is because of that collaboration that the CSIR had with the private sector, because they are the ones who have to commercialize, the technologies and then work with them. Then the other one is we had a EU-funded project called Wider Uptake, where we work closely with the private sector, Sewage Systems Limited. They, recycle waste to all kinds of products, and then the sludge that is coming from that product, they use it to produce biochar, which is like charcoal being used for cooking and all that. And then another one is to use treated wastewater for urban agriculture. These are all some, bioeconomy products. And then we have also another project called the Waste to Energy. We did it in collaboration with some German partners, where waste was used to produce different kinds of resource material, fertilizer, energy, gas for cooking and all that. And in that project, we developed a policy framework for the country so that any ministry that wants to mainstream waste to energy initiatives will be able to do that, because the waste to energy cannot be done in only one ministry. It could be done in the agriculture sector, environmental sector, local government, and all that. So we have that policy guideline developed by us, by my ministry. And then we also have another project being implemented by women, a few women, because that call for proposal was targeting women for climate action and all that. So what we are doing is that if you look at the coastal areas in Ghana, they've been cutting the mangroves and all that for firewood. So in order to stop these women from cutting the mangroves, we are providing them with the mangrove seedlings where they will plant, and then we are introducing them to briquettes. briquettes that are produced from waste within their own community. So the women collect the waste, and we are working with commercial briquette producers. So they collect this waste, give them to the briquette producers to produce the briquettes, and then these women have access to this, so that they stop cutting the wood and all that. And then let me also talk about another partnership with a financial institution, a bank, that is Sina Piaba. We supported them to develop their climate change policy, and then develop training manuals for them where we train their clients on climate change, mitigation and adaptation technologies, and also supported them to develop products, financial products that can support all this bioeconomy. So for example, if any of their clients want to go into biogas production, they should have a product that supports these climate smart, kind of technologies, or whether we call it bioeconomy technologies and all that. And so I think that's another example I'll give. And then maybe to crown it all, recently, just in June, in Ghana, we have established what we call the Circular Bioeconomy Innovation Hub. Yes. Circular Bioeconomy Innovation Hub is being led by ILMI, International Water Management Institute, and then it has 17 stakeholders, including the CSIR, where they are developing capacity, trying to see whether they can come up with technologies. It's all in a way to promote waste to energy technologies in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing up the hub. That was an important point. Let's now move to Nigeria. Professor Olajuigbe. Given Nigeria's scientific capacity, we know about the entrepreneurial ecosystem and resource base. How can the country become a regional hub for bioeconomy, innovation, and skill?
Thank you very much, moderator. Yeah, I will start by talking about the unique strengths of Nigeria, because you started with the strengths as a question. So Nigeria must leverage on the unique strengths like the rich biodiversity and natural resources. We have vast agricultural land, forests, and marine resources that support innovations in bioenergy, in biomaterials, pharmaceuticals, and sustainable agriculture. And another strength that we have is the human capital. Nigeria is rich in human capital, and it also has a vast market. We have the largest population in Africa of over 200 million. We have growing youth demographic, and we have expanding universities and research institutions in Nigeria, whether public or private. We have these institutions in Nigeria, and this shows that we have both skilled talents pool and also domestic markets, which are both necessary to scale bio-based solutions. Another key strength that we have is the strategic geographical position of the country. Nigeria's central location in West Africa and the strong trade links, with across the continent makes it a natural hub, for distributing all these bio-based products and technologies regionally. And lastly, the last strength I'll talk about is the national policy initiatives that Nigeria has, or that the federal government of Nigeria has, and the investment potential. We have ongoing initiatives in agriculture, renewable energy, and biotechnology through different agencies. One of them is TED-Fund, that's the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. We have through the National Biotechnology Research and Development Agency. We have ongoing initiatives also through NASENI, which is the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, and also we have National Bioeconomy Strategic Framework, the NBSF. This provides a policy foundation And also we have developed bioeconomy strategy in some thematic areas under TED Fund. So about TED Fund, the Tertiary Trust Fund, like the agency secured a $250,000 grant in 2023. And that was from the Canada's IDRC and also UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. And this was used for selected researchers under their Research for Initiative Impact, the R4I. And so TED Fund, in collaboration with Science Granting Council Initiative, funded 4 major research teams from different tertiary institutions in Nigeria. And these 4 teams developed market-ready prototypes within 12 months, covering projects which align with sustainable development goals. They focused on affordable and clean energy, life on land, clean water and sanitation, industry, innovation, and agriculture. Additionally, we have what we call the TED Fund NRF grants. That's National Research Fund grants. It's annually. And so we have different thematic areas under that. We have different thematic areas. We have the one on bioenergy, we have the one on climate, we have on environment. Almost all the thematic areas support bioeconomy. And so this year already we have the call for concept note that is on now. It's annually we do that. And the federal government approves 4 to 5 billion naira to research grants, or in a research grant through TED Fund. In 2024, the federal government approved about 5.13 billion in research grants for 185 projects under the TED Fund National Research Fund for the 2023 grant cycle. And also in 2025, just recently, this August, the federal government also approved 4.2 billion naira for 158 research projects for the 2024 grant cycle. And as I said, presently there's call for concept notes for the 2025 grant cycle. And so all researchers are brainstorming, on how to improve the nation's economy in different forms. And so that's what we have about TED Fund. And then we have the National Biotechnology Research and Development Agency. I'm happy that one of their directors is there with us. And so under their leadership, under the leadership of the Director General, Professor Abdullahi Mustafa, the National Biotechnology Development Agency Establishment Act 2022 was passed, which further reinforced the regulatory and policy framework for biotechnology in Nigeria. And the agency, that's NBRDA, now champions biotechnology hubs across the Nigeria's geopolitical zones. And they promote innovation in crop improvement, pharmaceuticals, bioremediation, and waste to value bioindustries, which are the strong points for bioeconomy development. Then we have another agency. These are initiatives that the federal government, have. These are ongoing initiatives through the agency. And we have the National Agency for Science and Engineering, Infrastructure, NASENI. Their own effort is in promoting indigenous industrialization. And they develop sustainable technologies and empower youth through skill acquisition. All these align with bioeconomy. And NASENI has consistently fostered innovation in agriculture, renewable energy, and waste reduction. And to be specific, NASENI has partnership with the IITA, which is the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, for developing technologies for food production, processing, and preservation, directly supporting the bioeconomy's focus on using biological resources. Then there's this.
Professor, while you are sharing those very important strengths. I would like to add a follow-up question.
Okay.
So that you can center that in your final response. So we see that there is a market. Could you tell us about how Nigeria is fostering public-private partnerships to attract investment into the bio-based sectors, and how can this be scaled to benefit the region as a whole?
Okay, I'll still get to that. Thank you. And so we have this national bioeconomy strategic framework. You know, already the framework harnesses biological resources across agriculture, forestry, fisheries, energy, health, and environment. And it emphasizes as well sustainable production, value-added manufacturing, exports, job creation, and a transition to low carbon economy, which is all about bioeconomy. The framework has been validated by the federal and state ministries and even agencies, and presently is awaiting formal approval by the Federal Executive Council. So coupled with the rising interest from international partners, Nigeria can attract investment into bioeconomic clusters and innovation parks. So how we can, as a country, act as a regional hub for bioeconomy, innovation, and scale. First thing is that Nigeria has to strengthen their research and innovation ecosystem. There must be investment in biotechnology, or continue or further investment, because we're already investing in biotechnology research centers. So there must be further investment in biotechnology research centers, innovation hubs, and university industry partnerships to drive bio-based product development like biofuels, biofertilizers, biodetergents, pharmaceuticals, and other biomaterials. And then we have to leverage, Nigeria has to leverage as well on biodiversity for high-value bio-based products. It has to invest in value-added processing rather than raw exports. Right now, there's a ban on shea nuts. I think for the next 6 months, the ban is recent. I think it was about a week ago or less than 2 weeks ago on shea exports. And this is to promote local processing of shea butter, which will bring more income to the country. Then Nigeria has to strengthen policy and regulatory frameworks. That is, we already have the bioeconomy framework, but there must be acceleration to formally adopt and implement the National Bioeconomy Strategic Framework to provide clear direction and provide investors confidence, or boost investors confidence. And so the last one I've said here is another is to bridge research and commercialization. We've talked about state fund allocating grants to researchers, and but there's need to further expand state fund supported research grants and establish bioeconomy innovation clusters to translate our research into scalable, market-ready solutions. Then, so with deliberate action, I'll still get to that question. So with deliberate action, Nigeria can really lead Africa's shift towards a sustainable, inclusive, and innovation-driven bio-based economy, and act as a regional hub for bioeconomy, innovation, and scale, especially looking at the position of Nigeria in ECOWAS. We can influence regional bioeconomy standards. We can also provide regulatory frameworks and intra-African trade in bio-based goods. So what we are doing right now to to get the PP, is it on the PP that you asked me the question? Okay. So I'll get that. That was
very, very briefly, Professor.
Okay, yeah, I'll get there. So you asked, how can Nigeria's PP? Sorry. So how can
attracting investment into the sector, into the bio-based sector?
Okay. How is Nigeria fostering public-private partnership and attracting investment to bio-based sectors? Yeah, I will start that Nigeria There are notable public-private partnerships, initiatives in Nigeria that focus on bio-based innovation and biotechnologies, and this spearheads the country's emergence as a regional hub. First of all, we have the Bio Vaccines Nigeria Limited, and this is a dedicated PPP between the federal government of Nigeria and May and Baker Nigeria PLC, and the venture aims to revitalize vaccine production in Nigeria, and it focuses on manufacturing essential and novel vaccines, driving capacity in research and development, quality control, and commercialization of biologics for disease prevention across Africa. Another one is we have Syndicate Bio and Nigeria Institute of Medical Research, NIMR. This collaboration was formalized through an MOU, and it brings Syndicate Bio's expertise in genomics and precision medicine together with NMR institutional capacity in infectious and non-infectious disease research. So this partnership fosters drug discovery, ethical oversight, and critical capacity building for a new generation of Nigerian scientists. And the final one before I talk about how it can be expanded to, I know I'm rounding up soon. We have the Morocco-Nigeria tripartite MOU, which involves the National Biotechnology Research and Development Agency, the Nigeria National Petroleum Company, NMPLC, and Rehad Global Investment of Morocco. All these are joining forces to deploy biotechnology solutions, even in the petroleum industry.
Thank you, Prof. We're going to come back to you. We need to bring in another speaker now. That is very rich. Please, can we have a round of applause? We are going to come back to you when we open the discussion to get more of those inputs. But before we move to that segment, Julius and Ben, I would like to give you 2 minutes each to talk about some important issues. 2 minutes each. I'm going to set up the timer. So, creating an enabling environment. We've heard about the experiences from Ghana and from Nigeria. How important are regulatory frameworks? And this is for you, Julius. Intellectual property protection, biosafety policies, building investor confidence, and promoting innovation. And in your experience, how can governments balance promoting innovation with ensuring sustainability, safety, and equitable benefit sharing in bioeconomy development? 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, so for me, I think the question of balancing innovation and sustainability should not be there. I think government should just support sustainable innovation as the future. And then with respect to regulation, it's super important. So one of our companies was very successful because the National Environment Management Authority of Tanzania said, they set the standard for effluent discharge. And there was an agro-processing company making banana wine, which was on the verge of being closed. And we just had the right technology to save that company. And that company invested $150,000 to install our solution. So that's how important regulation is. Intellectual property is great, but for me, my experience is the management of it, how to manage intellectual property at the organizational level is the problem. So sometimes it's good to have intellectual property, but we've had cases where intellectual property management has stifled our efforts. And then lastly, on biosafety, the same. Biosafety is important. We have to make sure we have safe products for consumers. But sometimes they're also so stringent that we cannot actually deploy. So I think there has to be a balance of regulatory frameworks to ensure they also promote innovation.
Sustainable innovation.
Sustainable innovation.
And for you then, very briefly in 2 minutes as well, how can the P20 platform be used to elevate African voices, particularly farmers, SMEs, and innovators that is equitable and sustainable.
Thank you very much, Leila. To my mind, the G20, probably no organization is the ideal one. The G20 has got challenges, it changes presidency every year. So to my mind, we should use the G20 to promote an African position, but we should also look to other ways of driving the African agenda. And to my mind, what is critical is a functioning, active and proactive African Union and the regional organizations. I think what we're trying to do here for West Africa is critically important. I think we need to use every possible opportunity to do this. The G20 initiative on bioeconomy is seeking to establish a coordinating structure for bioeconomy development around the world, and this could be a very useful tool to promote the African interests, but we just must be careful not to invest too heavily in any one particular basket. We should make sure that we are approaching everything across the landscape.
Thank you so much, Ben. And so now we're ready to open up the conversation. We want, our speakers in the room to get a chance to share their input. We've heard a lot about the policy frameworks. We've heard from Senegal, from Kenya, from South Africa, from Ghana, from Nigeria. We have a lot of colleagues in the room. We have people from Benin, from Sierra Leone as well. And we are hoping to hear your voices during this open discussion. So, this is a question to everyone in the room. Let's talk about some of the promising bioeconomy sectors and value chains in your country, in your sector. What do you have to share about this conversation, about the topic of sustainable innovation, about building investor confidence, about the finance? The floor is open. If you wish to intervene, just show of hand and we'll give you the floor.
Thank you very much. I just have a few general comments or concerns. First of all, I am an economist, so I'll put that hat up. Some of these innovations we are talking about, which are very good, and the potentials in natural resource, development, etc., are very good. But then one thing that keeps coming to mind is the marketing potential, which has to do with human behavior. You can have all these remarkable innovations, and we've seen this happening, but then if people are not willing to accept them, adopt them, use them, then it will not be viable. So I feel we have to look at that as an important component to promote bioeconomy. The other one is that some of the issues we are discussing, they also have public good or positive externalities. So for example, if an innovation will lead to reducing greenhouse gases, for example, this is a positive externality, maybe a global public good, which will then require some public funding, some global funding. So not all these potentials will be privately viable because the private individual doesn't trap all the benefit. Part of the benefit goes to society in general. So maybe we have to decouple it and try to see how we can seek private funding or private investment as well as public investment or even global investment for some of the innovations that we are trying to promote. So these are a few comments that I would like to throw about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do you have Debo and can you post your hand up?
Yes.
Yes, please. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the presentations all the while. I just want to speak to the aspect of the innovations. Also, what has been mentioned in terms of industrialization of agriculture in Africa as well as it relates to the bioeconomy. The first thing is to really check whether with the strong work that has been done in Africa so far, if there is anywhere where we have a compendium of innovations around bioeconomy that could serve as a guidance, for other countries in Africa for use. Because what you find most times is that we kind of reinvent the wheels where those innovations is already existing. I'm quite elated with Prof's submission earlier where he spoke about indigenous innovations that are already existing that has not been explored. I think if the bioeconomy team here can look into the aspect of the compendium of such innovation across Africa, that would be quite useful. The second aspect is about what my brother spoke about earlier, where he mentioned the need to move from just the agrarian and agricultural base to much more of a manufacturing base. I think that is quite critical and very important, and that paradigm shift is already happening. I'm happy that it's also highly mentioned in the Kampala Declaration, where agro-industrialization is one of the key components, that was highlighted. But I just want to move further to the fact that action is already being taken in this area, and this might be the good time for the bioeconomy to start looking at what is being done around the agro-industrialization in Africa, especially if we are referring to West Africa as well. And I will point to one critical area of that implementation. The African Development Bank Feed Africa initiative on the strategic agro-processing zone will be supporting close to over 300 agro-industry in West Africa alone in the next 5 years. Yes, in West Africa alone. And I'm not so sure whether this initiative is putting in perspective the bioeconomy dimension into what is being done. I think that conversation needs to start happening around that area, because if you start having something of a high volume, and it's not a futuristic initiative, it's happening. I happen to be one of the people that is leading for Nigeria, and I'm aware that over 17 subnationals in Nigeria has subscribed to these, close to around $1.6 billion of a national loan is going into these as well. How we are engaging at the bioeconomic level, I think is needed to be looked into at this particular point in time. Those would be my two submissions at this particular point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see Sherif. I think okay. We're gonna get to everyone. Let's perhaps take this side first, and then we'll move on to the other side. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think I'll add my voice to the indigenous knowledge issue, because most of the things that we are referring to now as bioeconomy has been there. And I share with my South African colleague, how do we make the indigenous knowledge scientific? Because we can only get private sector coming in when we can show the scientific nature. So that is something that I think we all need to find a way of documenting it and adding a scientific knowledge to it. This moves me to the second part where we talk about the innovation. I mean, I'm in a university. There are a lot of innovations. But for my portfolio, what I've seen is, and a colleague shared whether the innovation is even novel. But I've realized that this innovation to commercialization, there's a gap which nobody is filling. The technology transfer. So we have a lot, the scientists, the enzymes, there's a lot. But there's a gap between that innovation and moving to commercialization for a private financing to come in. Now, who addresses that technology transfer, which is quite expensive, which can fail also? Okay, so that is something also that we need to put to our act together. And then the last question, from the experience from Senegal, it seems we are all doing something on bioeconomy in our country, even though we don't have a policy guideline. Now my question to those who have it, should we go back and document all the various strategies that we are doing and put it together so that we can monitor them, or we should reinvent the wheel and come up with a document called Bioeconomy document. Because most of the things that we've talked that goes into bioeconomy is being done. Transition, green economy, issues of agroecology, and a lot of things, but they are all scattered. Now the advice is, should we put it together and call it that document, or we should go and reinvent the wheel? And I'm worried when we keep on getting a lot of documents that are not followed. Okay, I mean, now the buzzword is the full system, and every country is putting up a document, and it's so difficult even knowing the state and even amongst the ministry, not coordinating. So thank you very much. I mean, these are foods for thought that I think we should think of. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those very interesting points. I don't think we're going to reinvent the wheel, but I'm going to let the experts around the table from Senegal, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria comment on that. Let's keep taking the comments. Yes, ma'am.
All right. For us to actually get the buy-in of other national governments into this bioeconomy thing, because without their commitment and what, even if the policies are developed, getting them to approve and then implement is a problem in Africa generally, as it has happened in other technologies. So we need to do a lot in the area of communication, of course, in the area of education, and all the things that we know can actually attract their attention, for our sectors. And even after they have accepted and all, we also need to do a lot for those products, because what drives innovation and research and all is that market. The market for whatever we're actually the value we're adding to the biomass, to what is already there. We need to do a lot in that endeavor. And then the area of macro economic planning and coordination, the bioeconomy will actually strengthen innovation, research and development, and then bioentrepreneurship is also there, competitiveness through policy alignments, aligning the whatever we're doing with our local context and all, coordination, local and strategic partnerships and all, then the triple helix knowledge and innovation technology, transfer partnerships at all levels of government, with academia, R&D, private sector is being said. So we all have to take all those, into consideration to actually sell through this in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sherry, do you want to say something?
Yes, good afternoon. I don't want to talk on am I all right? Oh, thank you so much. I want to talk on the construction industry and the waste it creates. And some of that waste can be utilized to go back to the economy. And it is interesting to note that the sand used in the construction globally is depleting, because the rate at which we are mining it is actually outpacing how it is generated. So we need to come up with innovative ways to actually stem it. We cannot stop it totally, but at least to curtail it. So I've done research on using waste. Like for instance, in our university, tons of papers, waste papers are produced every year in terms of answer booklets, because after every 5 years they bond those booklets. And it's the same thing for our West African Examination Council. They bond them, and bonding that has its own environmental implications. So if those papers can be pumped or mashed and then mixed with local material like laterite. Laterite is widespread in Africa, especially in the West. Mix it with laterite, and then you can have building blocks that have compressive strength that is equal to that of Sanskrit block, that is block made out of sand. With that, it can be financially viable, and it can save, well, it can help to protect the environment, and it is sustainable. So that's my research, one of my research I'm working on. And I've tested it, and its water absorption rate and mass volume is matched to that Sanskrit block. I've soaked those blocks in water for 2 seasons, and every month I'll take it to the lab and test the compressive strength, and during curing period, and it actually matches. So I think that's an area we should look to, but one of our problems actually is investment. Our country is really, really way down in terms of finance. So I'll stop here for now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. I think mine is just a short one. I was just listening to this conversation and how the issue of bioeconomy is multifaceted, and I think when you also look at the suggested solutions, starting from the keynote speaker, it looks like the solutions would have to come from different directions of government apparatus in different ways. And I was wondering, one, I think just right on the comment from the gentleman there around, do we really want a standalone strategies on bioeconomy, or do we really want to embed this in the existing strategies that are there? I think that's a very critical question that we need to interrogate. And maybe for those countries that have standalone policies, it would be important to see what has been the value add in that respect, or has it led to more fragmentation of policies, but also implementation. Then I think the issue around R&D, I think it's very interesting how R&D towards, especially in agriculture and others, continue to come up. And I was wondering whether maybe we need a movement in Africa. Maybe I was calling it African Coalition for R&D Investment, because it looks like in most of these conversations we're always saying there's very little R&D investment. Do we need an African movement which is going to push governments at different levels so that we really emphasize investment in R&D? And then how do we want to leverage on partnerships that are already pushing for R&D from different areas? I'm just coming from another meeting before this one where we're also emphasizing R&D in biotechnology. And if we go there with R&D on biotechnology, some of us goes there, R&D on mechanization, R&D on that. I think we need a concerted efforts towards how do we want to push R&D within STI, within Africa, so that we push this thing together. So that was my small comment in terms of how we might want to really have concerted efforts around R&D investment. Thank you.
I would like to appreciate the organizers of this program for the opportunity to please present here. I've been listening to all what everybody has been saying, for the Africans to be able to take this bioeconomics business serious. I believe we need solid collaborations. Though we have discovered this a long time ago, though we started by creating a research group, then bringing like minds, then people that are of capability, people from different fields. Then we started teaching ourselves some cool stuff, then training ourselves on how to create our problem trees, then creating solution trees. Then the major issue is the funding. Then how to go about the funding, now see, okay, if you start to have a kind of collaborations with people within, then outside. Then we started making linkages with people from outside. As I speak, we have established so many collaborations, and we are still on establishing some. Then we have, one of the researches that we took up is on beekeeping. I am a beekeeper. Yeah. So we discovered that, okay, one of our collaborators is a German. So he told us that 50% of the honey production in Europe is supplied by the beekeepers in Europe. So to now augment for the remaining 50%, they buy from Asia. But lately they discovered that honey from Asia is adulterated. So we now, they now say that the 50%, they are coming back to Africa. But the major issue with African honey is some residues in form of smoke. Because if you want to harvest, you have to smoke to suppress the bees before you can get the honey. So we are working on that to reduce these contaminants, then to also do a kind of DNA certification of African honey so that it can be accepted globally. Then we have a collaboration with Beerend in Germany. Then we have collaboration with Apis Food in Tanzania. Then we want to make it go a kind of an African-wide. So we are still coming to Senegal and some other African countries like that. Then we are collaborating with African Action Network in Germany on bamboo. I am a bamboo specialist. I have a compendium on bamboo for all the researches that I've done. In fact, I have over 40 solid researches on bamboo. So we are collaborating with Action Network to bring much value out of the African bamboo. You see, bamboo is in fact the fastest growing plant on the planet. But people are not looking at what bamboo can actually do. Initially, bamboo was not regarded as a material that can help sequester carbon, then help bring down the carbon footprint. But now people are like looking at bamboo because bamboo can be cut like every 3 years compared to wood or trees. That if you cut a tree down before you can get that tree back, maybe you have to wait for 30, 40, 60 years before you can get it. But bamboo, within 10 years, it will grow back. Once you cut it, 2, 3, 4, 5, you cut it. So we have, as a bamboo specialist, I've done a lot of work. And I know the miracle this plant can actually bring to the table when it comes to bioeconomy. Then we have also done researches on turning plastics into valuable products. In fact, we won a national research grant on that in 2023 in my research group. So we are currently building the bioreactor to convert plastics into valuable fuel instead of just burning, releasing the chlorofluorocarbon into the atmosphere, depleting the ozone layer. Then we have other, we have that, I'm also working on production of fertilizer. I forgot. The fertilizer man. I'm working on fertilizer. I just love extracting things from waste. So I'm extracting lignin. They now co-ferment the lignin with fungi and bacteria to turn into biofertilizer. That is lignin macromolecules. So at the end of the day, I want to come out with slow releasing fertilizer that will help cut down on the synthetic fertilizer that we use. Then we have.
Thank you so much. We have a hard stop at 6 because some of our speakers have other engagements. So we're going to try to get as many comments as possible. I see from the side we have GB from Israel, we have AB from Zev, we have Jonathan, we have Dr. Sokona, we have Boris from Berlin, and Professor Von Braun should have the final word. Before the closing remarks, we're going to do our best to make sure that we don't have anyone speaking at 6. Or Prof, do you want to take this one before we continue? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, great, thank you. So GB, 2 minutes please, your input. Thank you.
Merci, je vais aller très vite parce que en fait dans les discussions, je constate que toutes les régions de l'Afrique ne vont pas à la même vitesse. Et je pense qu'il y a lieu peut-être que ceux qui sont plus en avance puissent aider ceux qui démarrent. Notamment, je formule une demande. Je pense que si on peut faire une synthèse de leçons apprises dans les pays ou les zones qui sont plus en avance, ça peut permettre de faciliter la chose pour nous qui démarrons. Parce qu'il va falloir, je pense, dans cet exercice, convaincre un peu les décideurs, parce qu'on ne peut pas y aller sans eux. Et ils nous diront que ce que vous demandez pour avoir une stratégie bioéconomie est déjà dans nos documents de politique, mais très diffus. Et peut-être on a besoin d'y aller avec plus de clarté. C'est peut-être l'exercice que nous devons faire, c'est d'avoir une note politique qui permet peut-être d'informer la prise de décision. Je sais par exemple que si on prend l'exemple du Sénégal, le compost peut permettre en tout cas de valoriser beaucoup de choses, notamment la biomasse qu'on perd chaque année dans les zones qui sont sujettes au feu de brousse. Je pense qu'il y a un peu une partie de récupération qu'on peut faire et fort heureusement, je pense que les politiques au Sénégal sont en train aujourd'hui de mettre un peu de subvention sur les engrais organiques. Et je pense que travailler sur cette question, c'est déjà un élément de bioéconomie. On peut très rapidement, en tout cas avec un petit consortium, CSE, ISRA, peut-être les universités et d'autres structures, académia, commencer à travailler peut-être sur une note politique qui permettrait de fournir la décision aux décideurs politiques. C'est ce que je voulais en tout cas partager avec vous aujourd'hui.
Merci beaucoup à JB d'avoir souligné le rôle des décideurs. The policy makers, the decision makers have an important role to play in this, but I believe those of us around this table equally bring contributions in terms of the science and the approaches, especially those that have been successful elsewhere. I would like to get some remarks from Dr. Sorula, who is here with us as well.
Thank you. I will be very short because of time limitation that indicate that maybe half a day is not sufficient to explore this very important issue. And it resonates very well what I hear here, because this is my first contact with this community. We had a discussion 2 days ago, a completely different community. We were discussing exactly the same thing, but we are not talking about bioeconomy. I think that one important element has been highlighted, but not deeply regarded: energy. Energy is fundamentally the problem of bioeconomy in the African context, not only in West Africa. Energy also is the solution. Because Africa is the only region in the world, every year, there is more people using charcoal and firewood for cooking. Where the wood is coming, where the charcoal is coming. In Dakar, it's coming from, more than 600 kilometers. You go to any capital city, you find a problem, and then no one, the climate people talk about phasing out the use of firewood or the use of fossil fuel. None of them talk about phasing out the use of charcoal and firewood. It has huge implications related to everything you have discussed. And it's doable, it's feasible. Economically, we work on that. This one element. Second element, there is no way you can structurally transform the agricultural sector without bringing energy inside. It's a fundamental driver and then for the structural transformation of the agricultural sector. You look at the whole value chain, energy is a critical element. It's completely neglected. And I think that those are some of the critical things, some of the critical issues the ICSI will be addressing. The electric cooking, not the clean cooking. With electricity, you have the possibility to do it. Economically is viable, socially and then technically is feasible. We have everything as a use application. and then the small-scale farming system, and then to look at energy system that adapted to that. Economically, it's possible, it's viable, because the technology permits. And then those are some of the things that resonate to my mind. And then maybe we need to have much more conversation around that, to go beyond this community and then to bring other communities, and so that we can have a concrete action. Sorry to be a bit long.
Thank you, Dr. Sokona. Amy, en 2 minutes, s'il vous plaît, pour commencer. Merci.
Yeah, thank you. I will be brief. I noticed that there are many efforts that are being made in different countries, and I was wondering whether there are efforts to synthesize the research that has been done on this topic, and also to synthesize the policies that are being made in the different countries, because that can be a starting point to set the research agenda on bioeconomy in Africa, not just in West Africa, and also set the agenda for policy making in the future. So that was my question.
Thank you very much, and I think we'll leave that open for reflection, because this conversation is going to continue even during the reception later. Jonathan, 2 minutes, please.
Yes, thanks very much. I think one of the key things that was highlighted, which I tend to agree with, is that we do have a lot of these different innovations scattered across the different countries, some of which we don't even have idea of what exactly it is. So I think the issue about the catalog is very important, to start looking into what these innovations are, where they are being implemented, and what really works where, and how that could be scaled out in other countries. In addition to that, I think that brings in the question about what GB mentioned with regards to having clarity. And clarity should come from the vision, and that vision should be driven by an action and an investment. And so we need much clarity in terms of having a regional bioeconomy strategy with an action plan and an investment attached to it for West Africa, which should then also translate into what it is per country in terms of the strategy. And I think that's where the clarity really comes in, and specifically the action plan for implementation. The second area, which I haven't heard much of, in addition to the finance and the innovations itself and markets, is how to scale out these innovations across different countries. So I think it's important to see how the scaling bits can be done. The third part is, I think it's important to have an innovation ecosystem, which brings the different pieces together, the finance, the partnership, the innovations itself, and then finally the knowledge, learning, and evidence-based parts. And I think there is enough of information for which, for example, what's being done in Senegal might be applicable for what's being done in Ghana, or Nigeria for Ghana. So the learning bit and also the network for us to be able to share this knowledge through some form of multi-stakeholder platform will be key.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And the final comment from the floor before we pass it on to Professor Von Brown. Maurice from Benin, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. She really already talked about the issue about waste, but I would like to add the fact that the opportunities arising from the bioeconomy should be clearly bring out for policymakers in terms of bringing down the underemployment, which is a problem in Africa as a whole. So in such a way that they may be aware that doing that may help them to solve other issues like the conflict related to the scarcity of resources, and also the terrorism we are facing, because some people, where they don't have good jobs, they may be involved in terrorism activities, so we need to think about that in a holistic manner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and with that I will invite Professor Von Brown for his remarks.
I sense that a community is forming here in this meeting. And that is very important. But I want to ask a question to us. What is the added value of a strategy on bioeconomy? The answer is it facilitates to focus on coherent policies and on synergies. Coherence and synergies. If you don't have a strategy on bioeconomy, if you just have a collective of projects and programs, the vision and the implementation capacity goes easily in wrong directions. So one needs a strategy on bioeconomy for coherent policies and to identify synergies and trade-offs. That is especially important on the energy sector, which I'm very happy was brought up again. My second remark is, it is most important for West Africa to look at other parts of Africa, South Africa, East Africa, and so on. But it will also be very helpful to look at countries outside of Africa which have moved forward bioeconomy strategies, and I point to this report, Bioeconomy Globalization, which gives you country-by-country reports. And you may like to especially look at countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and in Latin America. They have interesting experiences to share. So every country is special. West Africa is special. That's why we have so many diverse bioeconomy strategies around the world. But still, learning from each other is helpful. It can be helpful. And that's why my recommendation is to move forward with what has been also mentioned at the table, a policy brief, a pre-strategy, a list of bullet points, homegrown in West Africa, that can be a basis for an emerging strategy, a regional strategy, which can be diverse in the different countries. Nigeria is different is very different because so big and diverse itself inside. Maybe there are even bioeconomy strategy opportunities of different states within Nigeria, as we have it now in Europe, and Benin and Senegal and Ghana and so on. So, but start with a regional perspective. So my plea is embrace the strategy process. It takes time. Targeted towards strategic actions for transforming economies towards sustainability. Learn from each other. And then, as Julius has pointed out earlier, and Ben, bring your innovative strategy to the summit in Ireland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Von, for your final reflections. And now we're ready to hear closing remarks from Dr. Usman Bejan.
Thank you, Lai. Thank you to everybody who joined us here today. More importantly, thank you for the rich discussion and the contribution from everybody around the table. We've heard about various efforts going on, especially on the research side, at the country level, which is very refreshing. We also heard of some early stage policies or strategies in some of the countries. So that perhaps takes us to what we might want to consider when we leave here as next step. Joachim pointed to one of it, maybe 3-4 pager on the outcome of this discussion to bring all this rich contribution in, to make it available. But I guess also just thinking aloud, just hearing from the few countries that are here, there's a lot going on the ground. Maybe we might want to find a way, Joachim and colleagues here, of having an inventory or an assessment of what's going on in the different places, right, on the ground, in terms of research, but also in terms of indigenous practices and products and services. We have heard some of them from here, but also some initial policy elements and strategies, just to have a real nice photography of the situation. I think we could also think about initiating a continental discussion around bioeconomy, the community that we're talking about, exchanging a little bit, trying to move towards from here to other regions and the continent. And finally, think about how we can, between now and GBS 26, perhaps galvanize the discussion, have some initial contributions, and maybe even a voice at GBS next year. So let me leave it at that, so that we close exactly at 6:00. Somebody's looking at me and wanting me to do that. So again, thank you to all of you. Safe flight back. Safari njema. Travel safely. Bon retour. Bon voyage. Delulen ajam. So
Thank you very much, Dr. Bajan, and thank you to all our participants around the table for your contributions, and thank you to our organizers, Academia 2063, icipe, Centre de Suivi Ecologique, and ZEF. So before we step out, please, I would like to invite everyone to come to the front for a group picture, which we're going to have together. And then after the group picture, please, to all our participants, if you did not sign the registration sheet, kindly meet Nancy, my colleague Nancy, sitting at the table over there, and sign before you leave the room. And my final announcement, Academia 2063 will have a shuttle at the entrance of the hotel to take you to our original office, which is 5 minutes away for the hospital. You all received the invitation. So for those of you who are attending the cocktail, please wait for us downstairs. Thank you. Picture time, everyone.